There we go. Hi everyone, it's Artie from the Human Chapters. I'll tell you a little bit about human chapters. Humans are living narratives with a past, present, and future. These narratives constitute of a number of chapters across a lifespan. The aim of these conversations is to highlight a chapter of the narrative and unpack its connections to other chapters. I don't really care whether people are natural storytellers, but I truly do believe each person has a story to tell. Now I'll acknowledge country. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay respect to their tribal elders, past and present and emerging. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. And today we are going to be speaking with the wonderful Spencer. I won't say much about Spencer, but I'll give the floor to him. But his human chapter is called Growth and Maturity. Spencer, go for it.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely excited to be here and to share life with anybody who cares to listen. The idea is the hope that we're able to share something that could change, affect, and spark change in someone's life, and for them to have an amazing effect on humanity and culture and mindset. So I'm extremely excited about being here and to learn and to share. So thank you very much for having me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Spencer. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and why you chose the topic growth and maturity for your human chapter.
Thank you. That's a great question. I'm a military brat, born in New Jersey, predominantly raised in Texas, but I've been all over. I've been to more 50 countries, right about. I've almost have spoken into all 50 of the states that of the United that I live in, and I currently live in Texas. And I'm 47, approaching my 48th birthday, and I think when you look back, not that the birthday just wow, just being able to live that long, and it seemed like a blur. In looking back and seeing where I'm at now, just how attractive, right? The older you get, for me, like the things that I thought were sexy when I was younger, they're not sexy anymore. What I thought was a sexy car or sexy woman. And so to me, the sexiest thing in my eyes right now is growth and maturity. So when I look at myself, the things that I'm proud about, man, okay, that's attractive. You could be honest about that. That's attractive. That's what makes you attractive. To me, those are the things that make men and women, because I don't believe in that's a good woman and that's a good man and that's a real man. When we understand what the essence is, just to be a woman, you don't have to add pretty titles to it. Good, great, queen, this, that. She lives it. That's still a woman. And when you understand what it is to be a man, because when I need you, I don't need you to be a great man. I just need a man. I don't need the man. I just need some to be a friend. And there's so much power in that. And when we understand the value in that, we don't have to add nicknames to them. We don't have to exaggerate them and blow them up and put great and good and super in front of just sacrificing to be better individuals. And so that's the most attractive thing for me, where I'm at in life, how I look at life, and just the maturity, just being thankful that I didn't die in a whole lot of ignorance. When there was opportunities to, people are dying every day and in faster rate, and then we're living and dealing with the pandemic. And a lot of us are high candidates for what that brings, and just to be fortunate. I've been and I've lived in countries where the life expectancy is 40 years old, and I'm, I'm about to be 48, and, so you learn these things. And when I look back, I'm like, wow, I'm glad I lived long enough to recognize that. I'm glad I lived long enough I might not be able to fix it all, but at least I have a level of understanding, right? And I still find value in wanting to be a better person, regardless of how difficult that can be at times.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that, Spencer. Um, what has your journey been from when you were younger to, you mentioned things that were sexy then aren't sexy now. Take us through a little bit of your journey from your, whether it's adolescence to young childhood to where you are now, and why that's so important for you, so, in terms of age, wisdom, cognitive knowledge.
Um, I think, and again, everybody has different experiences, but and so even with that, there's people who can understand certain experiences. In America, and I can say all across the world, but I can only really speak for where I've lived and what I know and how things function in my culture. And there was a time, and I'm a 70s baby, and a lot of blacks back then, were just busting their ass so hard just to try to put food on the table. So there's a lot of things that just being able to provide to put food on the table and keep lights on and then still get sleep to get up and do that again in between, a lot of things that you would want to encourage your children in, you don't get to encourage your children in. And sometimes some of those things that your kids are going to need to know, right? They don't get to know because mom and dads aren't in those competitive environments to have those conversations to share with their kids. And it's it's not right or wrong, and that's how I kind of, look at a lot of things. So when I'm able to live long enough to recognize those things, not guilt or beat my parents up for what they didn't do, but to understand how it got me to where I was and how important it is for me to establish those things in the young people that are around me and my children. Like this is it. How to balance a checkbook. Don't take those things for granted. Don't take anything for granted that I don't want my kids to learn in the street. I need to make sure that I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that they can learn on the device, just holding their phone, that moms and dads might not want them to know. So I need to be, you know what I'm saying, ahead of that. The things maybe where I felt like maybe my parents could have said more or encouraged more, not by judging them. It's not judging. It's me preparing myself to take advantage of my opportunity when I trade places with them. They become grandparents. Now I'm the father. What do I want to do better? Not because it's still a trauma and I hate my parents for it, but because I know this is the value in life, being able to manage your money, not growing up in areas where that is not a conversation. Most blacks don't know why they vote the way they vote. Mama was a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. Daddy was a Republican, I'm a Republican. They don't even know the difference between the two parties.
Yeah, right.
So if that was the case with my parents, I would want my kids to understand that. So now, once you're a part of society, you really understand what and why you're voting that way. I want my kids to grow and to decide for them what's best for them. If this is what was best for me, the world changes so fast. That's what's best for me. And I don't think that we completely give our kids and encourage them to do what they want to do. We want to make sure, hey, this is what daddy did, and you do the same thing that daddy did. And then we have a lot of kids still trying to live their parents' lives. And they live their whole life for their parents and they never have freedom for themselves. And I think as humanity, we got to be careful with those things. So when I see growth and maturity, me being able to recognize that and just being thankful that I've lived long enough to be conscious of everywhere I can be a better human being.
Yeah.
And if I got stuck in this chapter, I'd be good with it. It's safe. It blesses people. It has no harm. Because it's growth and maturity. It's going forward, not backwards. It's allowing me to evolve and be good with every part of me. When I think back and I maxed it out. I was the best young man I could be, pass or fail. And so I'm just focused on maxing this out and being fueled by growth and maturity versus lack irritation, and immaturity, right? Because sometimes those things fuel us as well. And so that's what really has me excited about um, this chapter of life.
That's awesome. So Spencer, tell me, when you talked about in the 70s, adults just they within the culture, they work to put some food on the table. When did you start to observe, or when did you start to realize this was the case? Was it?
Just when they worked, my grandmother worked 4 to 11. My grandfather was gone all the time. So I saw and understood that work is a part of life and still managed me and still held households. And you see how fast the day is going. And then you just see work, 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 work.
Yeah.
Eat, come home after working all day, working doubles, da da da. You come home, you cook, you make sure everybody's eating, you're constantly serving.
Yeah.
And so where is a time to say, hey, um, let's talk about politics. Let's like because my father was in the military, it provided me the opportunity to be in other conversations just because of his job, because now I'm around so many more cultures and cultures of people and hearing different opinions, you know, and having different views. That and that was just something that I always embraced. You know, I always embraced that. But if I would have stayed in the same spot, I would probably have the same mindset and viewpoint. You know, I have adults in my life, elderly adults, and I call them just to check on them, and they'll say, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh man, Trump got all this stuff out here messed up. Trump, 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 Trump." And then I'm thinking to myself, your life's been messed up way before Trump was even an idea of running for president. It's like we got to stop passing blame and function in growth and maturity. Like you understand? Like I got a front row window to your life, and you know what I'm saying? You know, I was born on election day when Richard Nixon was put in office. So, and you were struggling in life since then. So how is it 40 something years later, Trump is your problem?
Yeah.
No, we just have to own it. We have to grow. So to me, that individual isn't growing to even look to see what they can do in spite of what everybody else is saying the problem is. You know, and when you have growth and maturity, it stops you from playing the blame game. It stops you from deflecting, and it allows you to say it's okay that I messed up. It's not about what you do, Artie. It's about what you do next. Everything is.
Yeah.
Because we're human beings.
Yeah.
So everything becomes what we do next. Like, am I going to complain about it? Am I going to deflect? Am I going to play the blame game? Or am I going to look to how I contributed from this? What do I do to make sure it doesn't happen again? Or how can I make this a better situation for everybody? That's growth and maturity. And if that's not sexy, I don't know what is. It's like, because there's a lot of people that won't do that.
Mm.
They won't do that, you know?
And why do you think that is, Spencer?
Um, it's commercial to buy into fairy tale and this and that, and it takes a lot more than people think to look at yourself and then be open and honest. And so that lets us know, like, everybody isn't fit for leadership. There's some people who are extremely intelligent, right, and know a lot about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And if they weren't leading people, if they're leading machines, they might be great. But there's a lot of people that shouldn't be leading humanity, and they are, because they have one good trick.
Yeah.
And we fell for that for a lot of times. Even if we want to be honest about some things, like in society, um, a lot of my sisters have, a lot of women have.
Yeah.
have felt for that guy's one good trick. He's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's a football player, he's a this, he's a that. You know, right? But you hadn't said anything about his integrity,
Yeah.
right? And so you know, even so, then our young women have to mature to, okay, is that really what you want? You know what I mean? Does that title really provide that?
Mm.
Because I'm a doctor or a lawyer or a professional ball player, don't mean I can treat you right.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to get to the place to where we examine a whole lot more,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Instead of hoping, why would you do like this? Ooh, I just hope she's perfect. Versus saying, hey, let's have a conversation.
Yes.
You see what I mean? You know, because I don't need you perfect. I need you honest. I need to be able to understand what this is, and I can still be good with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. We wouldn't work if I had to be perfect, if we all had to be perfect, because I know that I'm not. So I'm telling you, it's going to break at some point. You know what I mean? But do we have the guts to fix it? And that's a team mindset. You know, we're just trying to be consistent at being our best. And you can't get to that place without growth and maturity, without being honest with with yourself. You know, because that was the biggest struggle of my life. You know, being dyslexic, I allowed that was like, it consumed everything. It robbed me of everything for so long. You know, it robbed me for everything. It consumed everything for so long. And so once I got on top of that, and who I was able to shrink and minimize my fear and frailty and uncertainty about school, about my ability to read and to function. You know, and I had to go champion that as well. And it took growth, right? It took maturity. It took me to stop lying to myself. Nobody else ever told me that I couldn't be a collegiate graduate. I told myself that because reading was so difficult. You know, I never saw myself that, yeah, playing football, that was easy. That's the back of my hand. But anything else that had to do education, no, I can't do that. I'll
Yeah.
never be a college graduate. I sold a lie.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for anyone to be successful if you're selling the lie. You know, I can't, you know what I mean? No matter how many tools I give you, no matter what I do for you, if you're selling, encouraging, contributing to ads, to the lie, right? I can't help you. I can't help myself. And I did that. And I did that. And when I did it, beautiful people, listen to this. I did it and still had horrible expectations. A friend of mine, I'll never forget it, Danny Benedetto was one, and Isaac Williams were two. Both of them saw it in me. And Danny said this, and he made a joke. And he goes, man, yeah, Spencer, man, that's cool. He said, man, I said, man, it's tough, man. He said, listen, man, D's get degrees, is what he said.
Yeah.
D's get degrees. And at this point, my expectation is that I'll never be a college graduate, but now I hear at no effort at all, D's can still get a degree. D's get degrees. I can do that. You see what I mean? So I was excited about a mediocre standard, right? That was the motivation. That's what got me in. And then when I got in and I was retaining information and I was excited about learning, and then I went from D's to being an honors graduate. Now, here's a guy that never saw himself doing that, is an honors graduate. Just for, again, despite all that I said, stepping out and taking a step, you know, initiative, you know, taking a step. I found out something amazing about myself, you know, that I would have went to the grave and missed out on. So for me, how I broke that cycle, my grandparents never thought a black man would be president. They went to their grave believing that.
Yeah.
And there's another set of people that went to their grave believing that it would.
Yes.
And I was on my way to repeating my grandparents' cycle.
Yeah.
And again, that's easy because I come from a grandfather who had to leave school in the 3rd grade because 4th through 12, you couldn't go at whites.
Wow.
So imagine this. Imagine all that my grandfather missed, 4 through 12, the opportunity that a teacher could have said, hey, Lewis, you can do this. Hey, Lewis, I see that in you. All the things that teachers did for me.
Yeah.
If my grandfather would have had that, it would have changed him, and then that would have affected his children.
Yes.
Because of what he knew what was in him. Hey, it's in all of y'all. We're going to get it out. You can do it. You can do it. You can be more than just a high school graduate. You can do that. You can start your own business. And you see what I'm saying? There was a lot that could have took place in that period of time and didn't.
Yeah.
You know, for just where life was. And so when I look at my grandparents and where it was important for me to do that. Being Black, it is important for me to vote, despite in America anyway, despite what I think, it's important because too many people died for the opportunity. I live in a country within its constitution said that Blacks were less than a whole person. Okay, so when you're coming from that, and then you're having people try to fight. If you're less than a whole person, there's no way you can have rights. We couldn't even vote about what was going on in our communities. And too many people died and lost their lives just for me to have that opportunity. It's ridiculous not to exercise it.
Absolutely.
You know, whether you vote independent, whether it's just, it's too much. And we don't have that complete consciousness. You know, you got to be active. You got to have skin in the game. You just can't have arguments on Facebook and badmouth people. That you have to have skin in the game if you really want change, or do you really want to be a complainer? You know, that's when we find out. Where the growth and maturity is.
Yeah. And Spencer, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, you've given your chapter the name or label growth and maturity, but it seems like it's got such a deep stem to it, right? All the way stretching back to your grandfather's time and the life he lived, and exactly what you said in terms of he went to his grave thinking there would be no Black president, or there would be, and basically waiting for those opportunities which never eventuated for them. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
powerful, powerful stuff. And then for you being in school and you being diagnosed with dyslexia, and again, the zone of missed opportunities in a sense, what did that eventuate? Yeah, really fascinating thinking about the different strands and in different elements of life and how it's manifested itself.
Yeah, and you just pulled something else out when you said I was diagnosed. That wasn't until way later. See, so to teachers, counselors, and everybody else, there was a time, at least in America, where IQ and academic achievement were one.
Yeah.
Now in America, they're separated. You can have a high IQ and struggle academically. You see, you see what I mean? Because it could be other areas that you're sharp in. So me being a great athlete or being good in this or being good in that, everybody equated it to the same thing. Oh, if he's good in this, he should be good in that.
Yeah.
If he can do that, he can do this. And that's not the case for anybody. For anyone. And there's several different things that hold people back from going forward. And when you recognize that, if you try to push somebody that you see that has potential from going forward, there's probably a trauma there. There's something in the way other than Jim just being afraid of success.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get diagnosed until later. If I was diagnosed younger, we would have been able to do more. As soon as I was diagnosed, I started educating myself and I started learning things. The things to manage, things to look out for, things to focus on. watch to understand why those things happen. And some days it's worse than others. Some days looking at text is completely scrambled,
Yeah.
and some days it's cool. So yeah, and that there's different severities as well.
Yeah.
So one dyslexic talking to another, doesn't necessarily, they have an idea, but the severities, yeah. So it's a whole lot. So growing up, so when you go all the way back to where I was young,
Yeah.
like just learning was just very difficult. Yeah, it was tough.
Spencer, what did it make you feel like? So, knowing that it was so tough, knowing that academic achievement and IQ was seen as linear, as one at that point, and knowing that because of different reasons, you found it challenging to learn, not that your IQ was low. What what did it make you feel like in primary school?
Um, all the way through high school, I think it set me on a track to what life, even though I was around a lot of people,
Yeah.
it was still lonely because there's a huge part of me, of being a human being, which communication is,
Yeah.
and I struggle in it, right?
Yeah.
I struggle in it. There's 30 million Americans that can't read 10-year-old text. Adults that can't read 10-year-old text.
Yeah.
Text that is set for a 10-year-old. There's 30 million Americans that can't do that. So a percentage of those 30 million, Artie,
Yeah.
are married. So if you can't read 10-year-old text, you can't read your marriage license. How about that? Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't think about those things. You got a document that binds you to another being and you can't read the literature.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's just things that need to be done about that. So it's just like been natural, my path. I didn't live this long, be able to champion through all that I did, not to be able to help somebody else get around the curve and be able to help them be good with them. There's a lot of adults that are still broken and have self-esteem issues and struggle with why people commit suicide. But, they get tired of holding that, carrying that bag,
Yeah.
and it breaks them. It could be anything, and so me living through my struggles just helps me understand that we all have them, and just try to be just a little bit more compassionate, try to be, find out how you can help.
Yeah.
That's it, and then encourage that. So that's what I'm about. That's what I live for in coaching. I'm using the sport
Yeah.
to make, to build the best individual I can.
And
Yeah.
Spencer, you mentioned you are and were a really good football player.
hmm
Yeah.
American football player. Let's be clear. We
Yeah.
got to be clear with you being in Australia and whatnot. We got to be clear. I don't want nobody mad at me feeling like I'm disrespecting. You know what I mean? The world football, soccer. What I mean, I love all sports, but yeah, yeah, American football.
And have you been good at it throughout? Was that something that you saw yourself being successful at? And was it almost your therapy, your solace, whatever you
It, you know what? It really wasn't. It was so natural to
right?
me, right? And everything that went with being a football player was natural. So where most people can exercise to relieve stress,
Mm.
exercise is part of the job. So I never look at exercise as a stress reliever. It's not. I don't know what that would, even to this day, I don't know what that would be for me. I know the things that I like to do. I like to target shoot, bow shoot. I like to bowl. I like to watch movies, but I'm not sure if all the things that I really enjoy are stress relievers.
Yeah.
And so then now, so you go from having to train to prepare for a job, and then now you train just to keep the weight off and because it's healthy, and so then that's still more of a commitment of a must than it is a stress reliever. So I don't know how to do it that way just yet. Still learning that. So see, I still got growth in that department.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's beautiful. Now tell me, as in, actually, this might sound like a very silly question, but at what age do you reckon your chapter of growth and maturity began?
Hmm. Probably, wow, maybe really over the last 10 years. And then now being able to look back and see the direction, the mindset, just how I was good with the change, how I was good with being open,
Yeah.
right? But like it took me like this long to watch this, and you would definitely understand this. It took me a while to be good with being different than how I was raised.
Yeah.
You know the pressures, and just as a woman, you know the pressures, and women coming from certain cultures, the pressures, of just being good with being different and saying, hey, I don't want that, like this is what I want for me. Or you know what I mean? I don't want to arrange marriage, whether you're a man or a woman. I want to have the ability to be able to choose love, right? Like some cultures, don't allow you to do that. Some cultures here, like if you're not this, or if like even now we got the election coming up, in our culture, you're not black if you vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You see, that shouldn't have anything to do with anything. You know what I mean? Whether you're black or your blackness or how much you love and care about your culture. But Black America is going to tie it to that.
Mm.
Black America is going to say that you don't, because that's not the guy that the majority of us are voting for.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? And having those freedoms and being good with having those conversations, whether it was with mom or dad, brother or sister, right? You know what? Yeah, I know how we were raised. And guess what? That was good for my upbringing. It kept me grounded. Well, why did mom and dad send me to college to be around other people, learn more,
Yeah.
right? And as I'm learning and I'm maturing, it's not that how I was raised was bad. That was one part of the foundation. Now I'm about to make decisions for the rest of my foundation, and being good with that and being able to handle that with loved ones. A lot of people don't get to do that. It's a difficult thing for a lot of people to function different than their culture says that they should.
Absolutely. And I love that you, yeah, highlighted that point. Good with being different with who you are and how you were raised, and just what that means culturally. But you stated earlier that children tend to live their parents' lives, and that's you follow in those footsteps, and you keep, yeah, you adhere to what's said, and therefore you don't
Right,
tend to make different decisions. And if you want to make different decisions, there is a resistance, so there's a challenge that comes with it, and that's difficult
right,
to, yeah.
right. Like I think,
Mm.
and this is the truth, especially the better I got in football, right? And and this is a huge thing, especially amongst black women, and then in black American communities growing up, it's more accepted now. I heard in my church and in my community, yeah, you go and play football and you go and get good, you know, don't forget that you black, don't come home with no white girl, and then so when you watch this, so those things are encouraged and become pressure and can become intimidating. And now, so once you grow up and you mature and you understand how difficult marriage can be, relationships could be, why, how dare me put the pressure on you to say, only come home with a black man,
Yeah.
right? Versus, hey girl, just make sure he loves you.
Yeah.
Hey son, make sure she loves you. You see what I'm saying? It's like a petty condition that has nothing to do with your parents end up controlling the best thing that could ever happen to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or your social circle. You know what I mean? Can control the best thing that ever happened to you. You know, and there's been a lot of people robbed because of that pressure and that peer pressure of community and culture. So even for me, it's always there because we have status, and every country has status, and people are attempting to live to it instead of being good with themselves, right? And so yeah, that's what it was for me.
Absolutely. And I can see such parallels between your world and my world and the culture I grew up in. And it's very much marry into the community. And it's almost like a guarantee that it's going to, you're going to have a successful life
Right.
if you marry into the community. And it makes me, actually, ever since I was really young, I would have been 7 or 8 when I started challenging and going, why? Give me a good reason. And I would always ask the question, why? Again, culturally, that was frowned upon very much.
Yes.
You're a woman,
Yes.
why are you asking why? Just do as you're told, sort of a thing. And to go, and now looking back at those questions, and I talk to mom and go, well, what if, look at how the world is changing. You mentioned this before.
Mm-hmm.
Look
Mm-hmm.
how quickly it's changing. There is literally no guarantee anywhere. So why do we adhere to these cultural beliefs and traditions? What are we protecting? What's the main reason? And they can't say it, right? Our parents.
Right. And that's why they're upset.
Yes,
You challenged an adult
yes,
beyond an answer that something that didn't have any answer for. And that's the only reason that it's a sin,
yes,
because they didn't have an answer for it.
yes,
And but just imagine where we would be if we didn't ask and challenge, because I don't think that asking questions is disrespectful. I think asking is how we learn. Long as it's something about you, then I don't mind. Oh man, hey dad, you're such an awesome dad. How did you just do all that? As long as I'm stroking the ego and blowing up the ego, then you don't mind me asking. But if it's challenged outside of your understanding,
yes.
um, it becomes a problem.
It does. And do you
And
know?
it's hurt a lot of kids. I have a friend, true story,
Yeah.
comes home from Sunday school. I never knew this when we were young and growing up, but adults now. He shared this story with me a couple years ago. He's an amazing football player, great guy, and he was in church with his family, and they were going to Sunday school, and they were talking about Noah and the ark. Now he was in the second or third grade, or like the fourth grade or something. He was young. He was in elementary school when he asked his parents this. Now this is a typical. It can make you laugh, but then it makes you laugh because you're thinking about the innocence.
Yeah.
So he says, Mom, Dad, this conversation destroyed him. Noah had all those animals on the ark. What did they do with all the poop?
Yeah.
Right?
Good.
Now he's serious because you're thinking, you done seen, you know what I mean? It's like that might not be a question that me and you would ask, but now that he asked it, you're, no matter how big the ark is, you're still in a confined
Yes.
with elephants and all giraffes and all these animals. That him asking that question, challenging his parents to that question,
Yeah.
and the way they treated him and responded to him ran him away from the Bible. He doesn't want anything to do with religion. The kid, he just asked the question to the two most amazing people in his life that's had an answer for everything else that he's ever asked him.
Yeah.
And he took a beating because they couldn't answer.
Yeah.
That's simple. Well, son, let's find out. You know what? Maybe we just don't read over that part of the Bible. Let's look and see if it's written. But he got chastised.
Oh.
You see, and then not corrupted. Well, even if you want to call it corrupt, I can't say it's corrupt because it's not something that I force people to indulge or buy into. But I can't say it corrupted his view towards the church. His parents did, and then he becomes an adult, and he makes his own decision.
Yeah.
But that was one of those areas where, like, man, you really wish they could have got that one back.
Absolutely. And it starts when humans are children, and when they do start asking questions, it's out of innocence and genuine curiosity, which,
Yeah,
if nurtured and fostered, is a beautiful thing, right? Like, there's
yeah,
the function of the question is to have a response. And for us as kids, adults have the responses, and if they don't, they know where to look for those responses, right? Like,
right. I speak to kids all the time, and this is the one of the highlights of speaking to elementary kids.
yeah,
When I go around, whether I have a classroom or an auditorium, and say, "Hey, what do you want to be?" And let me tell you something. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of kids that want to be a stoplight, a
wow,
traffic light. I've had so many kids. I want to be a traffic light. I want to be a traffic. Like, see, that seemed like it would be funny, right? And people would chastise them for that. That's their innocence.
it,
Like, maybe they feel like they were put on the spot, and that was the first thing that popped in their mind, and they said stop light. Naturally they grow out of that, but to chastise them
mm,
and beat them up for it, or say that it's dumb, we got to be creative. So I would say, oh, okay, son. So you wanna get a job that'll teach people how to slow down and wait a little bit. You see what I mean? Versus, why in the hell do you want to be a stoplight? That's not the conversation that I have with a
yeah,
child. That's okay. He might grow out of it, and that's so no matter what happens, it's just, and I believe in discipline and everything else, but there's a certain time when it comes to young people and children that there's a lot more encouragement needs to be poured on than
yeah.
anything else,
And especially, Spencer, when you as an adult in the 30s or the 40s or whatever decade you're in, you see the impact of what childhood experiences can do. You see it
Yes.
very clearly. Hindsight's powerful. And you go back and you go back to those memories where someone encouraged you, but also someone trivialized you, right? And said,
Yes.
nah, how dare you think of something like that? They're a kid. They're vulnerable. They're just thinking. They are not projecting into the future. They don't have that ability to do.
Yeah.
They
Or that level of immaturity. Like, I think of the things, I see a whole lot of stuff
mm,
on Facebook in passing
yeah.
that me as an individual, I think is funny.
Mm,
It's funny. I can handle it. I can manage it as an individual. But I would not post things as an individual that would be insulting to you,
mm,
or even be a question, because everybody responds to things different. What is a joke to me is your trauma,
absolutely.
right? And so, again, you only get that in growth,
Mm,
right? And part of my growth came from just understanding who I am. So you get that in trauma, and having that understanding, and just want people to be able to connect with that. Like, and so everywhere I look, Artie, there's an opportunity and the potential to grow. And for me, really understanding the importance of it, because everything that I'm gaining today, it could be for next week, next month, next year. But the fact that I'm preparing for, and everybody, not everybody, too many of us look at what's in front of you right now like, what do I need this for? Why are we talking about that? Two things. You might not need it today. And the most important other thing is, it might not be for you.
Yeah.
Everything I learned today, all of the stuff that I've been learning, went through, it wasn't for me. I got through it. There's some people that wouldn't get through it if I hadn't gotten through it, to be able to encourage them, to share that. It's for that sometimes. So understanding purpose,
Yeah.
you know, instead of just looking at it as a beat down and life hates you and just dealt you a bad hand. Hey, if you got through it, share it. And if you're not sharing it, guess what? You're not through it. You're not good with it. And that's why you can't share it. You're not good with it. You got to get good with it. When you're good with it, and that takes time, right? That takes time. And some people get to the place to where they can, and some don't. But it's so important for as much of us who can, we have to share more substance. We share a lot of videos, a lot of memes, and a lot of that is, a lot of ignorance is tagged to that and tied to it. But substance, you know, for people to do that, they got to be good with it and everything that could come with it. If you were to reveal something to me that you hadn't revealed to anybody else, once you reveal it, you know, a list of questions is going to come with that you might not be good with, right? And but it's a necessity for humanity, for all of us to try to get good so we can contribute, because that's how we contribute, by sharing.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that's it. And I'm not saying it's easy. Let me be clear with that. I'm not saying it's easy. What I'm saying is worth it, and what I'm saying is that we should. That should matter. You know, whether you're taking baby steps, giant leaps, we should be pushing ourselves into a direction to be a help and not a hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And Spencer, let's actually dive a little bit into the part where you said you should be good or be comfortable in your own skin.
Yes, yeah. That's you know, like, that's my bad in being an American. You like, one word have a million reasons. So when I say be good, is be comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with
Yes.
being comfortable in your own skin takes a lot of, or to me, like my personal view of it, takes a lot of courage, but also it takes being honest with yourself, be it good or bad in that
Yes.
instance. Let's talk about that for a minute. Honesty. 10 years ago, when you said your chapter started, what were you being honest about within yourself?
Um I had to be honest. It was just an eye-opening, like, it was like, wow, like, bro, you told yourself that you weren't any more than a football player.
Okay.
And there was a time where that was your only path, and now here it is, you're a college graduate. Over and you know, like, there's a whole, like, there was almost to where there were going to be a whole lot of chapters, a whole lot of adventures, a whole lot of triumphs, a whole lot of overcoming that builds a person that I almost dodged if I wouldn't have took the steps to go back to school to try again, even though it was traumatic. That was the only thing that I was afraid of at that time. So when you have somebody who's not afraid of anything and they're only afraid of one thing, once I conquered that one thing, now I'm not afraid of anything. Now I'm really good.
Yeah.
Right? With making a mistake, with falling, with getting back up, with owning up, with now I'm just being honest with myself. on just, just trying one more time. You know, it made the difference. It just completely transformed my life. It doesn't allow and open up for excuses, right? So we have a hero here, and I love to read, and I share this everywhere I go. And then this individual's story strengthened me. And it's a gentleman named George Dawson, who is from Marshall, Texas. And he goes way back. His grandfather was a slave, and his father was post that. And then he grows up, and he moves out of Texas to try to start a life for himself, to try to get some things kick-started. Did a little bit, saw the world, comes back, and his family's gone, completely moved away. Nobody notified him. So he moves 2.5 hours from Marshall to Dallas, Texas, gets married, raises 6 kids, helped them with their homework, and their kids get on and they go about their life. And one day a man knocks on George's door, and they get to talking and exchanging conversations, get to going good. And this individual was a champion for literacy. So he was going from door to door for literacy. And at this time, Mr. Dawson is 99 years old and he can't read. And this gentleman plugs him in a program. Mr. Dawson learned how to read at 99 years old. So this, I'm going to finish this story, and it's powerful because this like stops me, and it's my escape when I want to quit. Okay, this is what checks me. And I think we all need those things in every area of our life. But when I want to quit, not just my own reminder, but this one, Mr. Dawson, was powerful because I'm 47. He lived to be, a century. So Mr. Dawson learned how to read at 99 years old and died at 101 working on his GED. So learning how to read wasn't even enough for him. At 99, Artie, do you understand how powerful that is? Yeah. I've already raised 6 kids and I've lived my life.
And the drive.
You can't prove to me that there's a value in learning how to read when I help my kids with their homework and I'm 99. Do that first. Live to be 99 and then tell me how much more I need. When I've done that, I've raised a family at 99. How are you in your 30s and you have excuses about what you're not doing? How are you in your 20s and you have your excuses of what you're not doing? You haven't lived enough life to challenge what this man did in just learning how to read. That is the most amazing thing to me. So when I hear that, what can be your excuse with your youth? Like, man, you can imagine, 99 years old, I can imagine possibly how hard it could be to get out of bed at 99 years old, because it's hard to get out of bed right now at 40 something from football. You know what I mean? I'm starting to feel like it could be at 99. And he found a value in that. Like, hey, listen, man, I'm above reading. I put my 6 kids through school. I helped them with their homework, and I couldn't do that. When most people become seniors and they're collecting their retirement, they're not looking to get more education. They're looking just to live life out.
Yeah.
Not George Dawson.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's how I want to be.
Yeah.
That's how I want to be. I want to have plans. When I check out, I want people saying, if he would have lived another day, he was going to do this.
Yeah.
Because that's what life is. That's what I saw. That's what I see biblically. I didn't see people focusing on getting their retirement and just getting discounts on everything and focus on how people help them and just, oh, hey, I'm the elderly. I saw them people giving, contributing, and changing all the way until the time they checked out. Yeah. Right? And so we still have that responsibility. And that's what George Dawson, if he didn't do it for anybody else, he did that for me. His kids probably looked at it different. You know, but how I look at it is, how dare any American
Yeah.
or any human being live to be 99 years old? And
Mm.
if you're well under that, you don't have the right to complain about nothing. He still found value, and that is my thing. Is like, what is your excuse when a man can live his whole life
Yeah.
and get just a GED?
Mm.
He was working on that, still contributing, still motivating,
Yeah.
on his way out. His body expired. It was not his fault.
Yeah.
His mental and his effort saying, now that I did that, I'm going to achieve this. And he wrote a book, by the way, called Life is Good.
Ah, life is good. Okay.
And I just like, that's my push.
Yeah. Quite a prime example of be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And but a
Mm-hmm.
consistent change.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I'll have to.
Yeah. You got to check that story out.
Yeah.
Google him, George Dawson. That, when I saw that, was so powerful, um, for
I'll
me.
yeah. I'll put a link when I upload this conversation onto the page, just to
Okay.
for that story. If anyone's interested, sounds
Yeah.
absolutely powerful and yeah, worth reading about it.
Yeah. Yeah. What a champion.
Amazing. Wow. I'll be taking some time after the conversation to process that particular story and just, yeah,
Yeah.
read up
Right.
about it.
Yeah. I share that everywhere I speak. It's important, because everybody has an excuse, and we can come up with elaborate excuses. And sometimes we come up with elaborate excuses just to shut our family and friends up.
Mm.
You see what I mean? But no matter how and what you cover an excuse up with, it still is that. No matter how big, great, tall, amazing you decorate it, it's still that. And it's unattractive. And then there's a time, like playing football in Texas, just if you want to be good, you can't have excuses. So I understood that to a degree. But then as my life changed, the things to have excuses about, you see what I mean? Then see, we go back to the sexy thing, right? Excuses aren't sexy. Just saying, hey, I missed it, but I got it. This is how I can rectify and just move on from there. Because everybody has bad days,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right. And so when we're thinking about those things, it's just being again, being good with owning up and wanting to move forward.
and honesty, right? Honesty is so
Yeah,
important.
yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
It's a good thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Spence, in the last 10 years, tell us about some of your work or your work that you've been involved in. I know you've written a book, you've got a few programs going that are international.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about some of them.
Yeah. So prior to the book, I did a lot of work in Africa, in and out a lot of the amazing and beautiful countries on that landmass, man. You just see so much that the history of the world is there. And if you got the type of mindset in connecting and wanting to help and establish leadership and build self-esteem, so whether it was Africa to China, to Europe or here, or to the Arctic, Alaska, it was the same thing. We all have needs.
Mm.
We all need a level of inspiration and motivation to move forward at times. And when you don't have it, you get to understand how important that is. And so when I was able to retain information from reading, even though I'm a dyslexic, the better that I got
Mm.
at all the lies that I told myself, the
Mm.
more I wanted to meet people to challenge them in the lies that they're telling themselves, which is to say, hey, no, I don't know your story, but I know that I told myself a bunch of lies. And I know that I'm so thankful that I got beyond them. And I wanted to help and encourage people in where they were stuck. Dyslexia is my thing, my trauma. You have yours. How it affects you, how you manage it, is how you manage. Everybody does. So it just opened me up to connect with everybody, understand, and being able to show this that we all still, majority of us, desire the same thing: to love and be loved, to live out a wonderful life and to have fun and do it to the best of your ability. And the only way some of us is going to do that is if some of us build the strength to share our stories. So I go everywhere that I can possibly go to share mine, to provide a level of inspiration. So yeah, now see, my book is Lead with Love, and just not the mushy, but the value of what the expectations that love does in leadership and in a life of an individual. And I have All Flowers Bloom, which is a program for women to focus on whatever their amazing is, not the next woman's amazing, but to be good with theirs. We have a lot of that. When you hear there's millions of teenagers getting plastic surgery, listen, teenagers, your body isn't even completely fully developed. Because you don't have it as a teen don't mean you won't have it as an adult. But we have people whose self-esteem is so bruised, they feel like they need that now. And we don't have enough people telling them, hey, baby, you're amazing. If you need it, it'll come. Mm-hmm. But even though you don't have it, you're still awesome. We don't have enough people telling our young people that, and they're feeling that they need more than what they do, and it's taking them forever to connect to their value. So I understood the importance of that. And my nonprofit is Purpose for Tomorrow, which we just encourage everybody to focus on just that. Tap into what your purpose is for tomorrow. And when you do that, you understand how important it is, the things you learn today. The substance that you get out of every day becomes important. Then that kills fluff, because tomorrow it's going to come and then it's going to be gone like a vapor, right? Mm-hmm. And so managing that and understanding the importance of life, I just want some people to see better than what they grew up, or better than what they believe. To have an opportunity for that, is what I'm interested in encouraging and providing, not just for young people, but for young adults. There's some people, some young adults who have missed marks, told themselves, just like me, they couldn't do it. And they're not. And then now the excuse is life. Oh, well, I got 3 kids, or I work this and that. Hey, listen, I know women that got 5 kids and put themselves through law school. It can still be an excuse. So now it's better for me for you to say that you don't want to do it. It's not interested now. But if there's a will, there's a way. Hearing that all my time, if you're willing, you can find a way. Guess what? It might not be the fastest way. It might not be the best way, but if there's a way that'll get you started, right? If you're willing, and as you become willing, it opens up other avenues to other things that could lead to something that could be extremely amazing. So it's just the fact that, hey, I almost allowed dyslexia, which is just not knowing at a young age, it could be and it is very, very ugly. Mm. Because you don't have a lot of people that understand. They understand when you tell them, it's almost like if you find out you have a girlfriend, right? And you find out that her amazing husband, who you think is an amazing guy, beats her. Mm-hmm. Like, and you're like, yeah, you can't see it, right? That's how you feel as dyslexic, because you don't see it. So a lot of people don't see it. They don't understand it. They're more sympathetic to our people who struggle if you already wear a helmet, or if I had a twisted limb, or if it's something that people can visibly see, they still buy into that. When that still isn't the whole truth. You can see something and it still be a lie, or just part of the equation. And so just being sensitive to just the fact you don't always see everybody's trauma.
Absolutely.
But I've matured to the place
Mm.
to where I know that it's there. I don't have to know, but I know it's there. So I'm going to be respectful and as kind as I can because I know it's there. Because I have a trauma.
Mm.
You see, mine might not be yours,
Yeah.
but I'm going to respect you and meet you where you are and be as encouraging as I can to see how my trauma can encourage you. Because trauma slows down things and it keeps you away from a lot. So there's a parallel. If dyslexia kept me away from a lot and whatever your trauma is slowed you down and told you and blinded you and put scales over you, whatever it did for you, it still doesn't allow us to function at full capacity. Some people's trauma is this: they live their whole life trying to prove things to people. Oh, I'll show you. You said I couldn't do that. I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you. And the next thing you know, you're so focused on showing everybody. When have you lived for yourself? Right? And so again, it's getting good. I don't have to show you. The most important thing is for me to show myself I'm interested in this moment, and that becomes a very, very powerful thing for me. So it's just about growing up and continuing to develop your mindset. Like for some reason, like we're hooked on the world or society system. What, especially in America, I don't know what it is in Australia. Why do we feel like we're grown just because we're 21?
Mm.
Now just think about how immature you were at 21 when you thought you were grown. You see what I mean? It takes living to understand that you're not. And then it took honesty for me to be at this age and still say, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Everything's still evolving. I'm evolving and being good with that. I'm so thankful that I'm not set in stone. I couldn't be any earthly good to anybody if I'm not willing to evolve and challenge myself and others and understanding. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
And that's what this last 10 years has brought out of me, situation after situation, for me to stand up in and be like, this is okay. This is good. I'm not doing that. I don't agree with that. And it's okay. Me not agreeing with it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. That's not what I'm interested in. But though that even that level of honesty can still cause friction that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't say you doing that you were going to hell for doing that. I'm just saying it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I'm not bad mouthing it. Just the fact that I don't agree with it kills harmony. Give me a minute to mature. The first time I heard it, it's today. Can I process it? Can the next 6 hours of the day have an opportunity to influence what you just told me? So I can call you tomorrow and be like, wow, you know what? I thought about that.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? But everybody wants it all right now. Some things are right now. All is never right now.
Yeah. Correct.
Yes, yes. And so, yeah, this is just amazing. I just thank you for your time.
Oh,
And
thank you, Spencer. That's been really insightful and eye-opening. And I have two final questions for you.
absolutely.
If I asked you right now, Spencer, who are you in this moment? In Australia on the 2nd of November, in America on the 1st of November, what would your answer be?
The answer would be that I'm just the best version of myself in this moment. And I function not to be perfect, but I function in sincerity. Because when I function like that, I'm going 100 miles per hour being sincere about my intentions. So when I drop the ball and miss the mark, I can pick it up and move on and apologize and get better with the same level of sincerity and commitment. And that's just who I've grown into. I love humanity. I love people. I love cultures. I think that our purpose for one another is so much bigger than the religion and the ignorance that we get stuck in. I've been to too many places and met so many amazing people that don't believe the way I believe, but they're amazing, and I trust them. You know what I mean? Now that's hard for a lot of people to say. You know, and a lot of people won't admit that. Oh, you're not me. You're not my same religion. You don't think the way I do. You don't vote the way I can't trust. See, that's the maturity that I'm beyond.
Yeah.
I can still love you and you not agree with me and think with you see, everybody can't do that. They want to, they'll say it,
Yeah.
but they don't appreciate how me being different grows you up. How you being different grows me up. It gives me an opportunity to grow versus us being the same because that's convenient for you because we don't want growth.
Yeah.
Right? And we see where immaturity takes place worldwide, it's the lack of growth.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and understanding when we think we both come from, we both were in countries that had people here before other people started showing up. The growth and maturity, just to be able to honor that way more than it's being honored.
Yeah.
Because you don't show up to somebody else's house and have it. They have it. Like when we talk about Thanksgiving here, watch this. We talk about how those first settlers would not have made it without the indigenous and without the Indian presence. They would not have made it without the people who already knew the land.
Yes.
And they're not properly celebrated.
Mm.
After those first group of settlers, more settlers came.
Yeah.
And all you did was teach them what the Indians taught you. You didn't discover that. You didn't know that. This was a new land to you. And we still don't honor that culture the way it should be. You see what I mean? And that's tough. So we have people walking around us and they turn on TV. You're talking about right there. How often do you turn on your TV and you see that indigenous influence? Exactly. When that is the foundation of that land. They are the foundation of this land. And when they turn on TV, they're looking at other people's interests and having that interest constantly forced on them. That's another conversation.
Yeah. It is. And the final question is for anybody else listening to this conversation, 3 main takeaways you'd like for them to get out of it.
One would be to just understand just how important communication is and how horrible of a job we all do it collectively. And it's important for us to communicate better and to respect others' views and be willing to mature and grow up and find a way for that to be attractive to you. Something that's attractive, right? You know, and it is, and not to be afraid of that, because everything else that we already claim to be attractive, it's already been done. Right? We don't need to hop on everybody. It's already been done. That's good. That's good. You have 1,000,000 degrees. You have this. You have that. Yeah, that's good. That's good. But just growth and maturity, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a footballer or a teacher or in politics, growth and maturity. You know, I just love that. When I look and I study history, right? Most white Americans, when they hear Malcolm X, they're stuck on Malcolm here, but don't know the one that died. 2 totally different men.
Yeah.
Okay? Completely different. This Malcolm goes to Mecca, comes back, completely different. Okay? So most Americans don't even have that understanding that this man had a mindset towards how he looked changed or how he looked at white people when he's in Mecca praying next to white people and fellowshipping with white people. When he came back, he was a different man. Most people stay stuck on what they want to stay stuck on.
Mm.
Bobby Kennedy, okay, he was for the Vietnam War. He was pushing a lot of ignorant things at one time. When his brother died, and after he started visiting the South, his mindset changed on the Vietnam War and what Black America needed, not just because they're a champion of Black America, but when we know how stubborn men can be, and when men make up their mind, they rather the world burn than to change their mind and be wrong. Bobby Kennedy openly said, I was wrong. Do you know when was the last time you heard a politician do that? And we're living in a country with one who does, and I'm not going to say that it's a lot, but he does enough wrong and we've never heard an apology. You know, and so imagine what that does for the people when they hear that. Now it's okay for a father to admit that he's wrong. It's okay for a husband to admit that he's wrong, because people still look up to these figures. Right? That's a powerful thing, because a lot of people won't do it. There's a lot of people that won't do it. And I think that's just, it's an amazing thing when we grow to that place to where we're able to buy into, when you mature, the substance that makes living extremely attractive.
That's wonderful.
Fantastic.
Thank you so very much, Spencer. I'm truly honored. And I know I say this for every conversation I have on human chapters, but it really is a gift to dive deep into a person's chapter. It's very personal, and there's a lot of heart and emotion that goes into it. So
Yeah.
thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I understand what you're doing, and when you say that, because anybody sharing their life, what a chapter could do for any other individual is a powerful thing. Someone who's willing to take the courage to give any frailty or any part of themselves is an amazing thing. So regardless of you should say it all the time when we understand the value of a human life and a human chapter. And so I'm just honored to be a part of that now, and to have been able to contribute to what you're doing, which is a huge need, is for people to share that. And I just hope someone's able to get something out of this amazing message. And thank you for your time. You're amazing.
No worries at all. And people, please feel free to share this conversation if it resonates with you. The chances are it will resonate with quite a few of your friends, your family. So please do share it. And thank you. I'll stop recording now.